Hello everybody, welcome back to the Crizzy YouTube channel. Today we are reviewing Depart for the Stars by Sendflowrs. I'm going to do this review a little differently from normal, but I will explain what I mean here in a second. First, I would like to discuss my personal feelings towards Sendflowrs, because this is an artist that I am much more close with than the other artists that I have reviewed on this channel up to this point. I've made songs with Sendflowrs. I've been a fan for a long time, and I think that he's incredible. He's in the top 3 of my artists of all time. I think he's wonderful. I love the way that he can tell stories. This album specifically has an amazing story behind it. I love it so much. But you know, to throw out a few examples, he has a single called Bad Luck. The story on that is amazing. I didn't even pick up on the fact that there was a story until I just decided to read the lyrics one time, and I was like, this is dark as fuck. Because it's about a guy sneaking into a woman's house. He's like obsessed and in love with her, and then he fucking kills her because she tries to leave him. So, you know, that was a little wild. He has the Pinewood Murder series. A lot of his stories are darker. Usually it comes from the perspective of somebody who is not a good person, usually an obsessed stalker or murderer. And then he also had an EP that told a story called The Devil's Cave. The Devil's Cave is hit or miss for me. I think that the story and that the project as itself is really good, but I think that with all the acting and the talking points, that it does take away a little bit from the music personally, so I can't really just throw on a song from there and enjoy it as I can with his other projects. But the story itself is great, and basically what I'm trying to say is Sendflowrs is a great storyteller. So when I heard the first 2 singles for this album, There Was a Car Crash and Moving to the Moon, I already knew there was going to be something here, because those songs, it's fine. You know what? I'll get into it later. What I want to do before anything is tell you that Sendflowrs lied to us. This story, he didn't show it the way that it should be shown. I think personally that the tracks are out of order. I think that there is a different order of tracks that actually tell the story properly. And I think that There Was a Car Crash is not the opener to the story. In fact, I think it is second to last, third to last. But what I want to do is first, I want to break down the story of the album and the order of events that I think it takes place. And then I want to actually individually review each track and the album as a whole in terms of sound. So for the first part of this video, and I will leave timestamps so you can, you know, if you don't want to listen to the story, you just want to get to the actual review, you can do that. But I want to first tell the story and the events that I think it is. And I'm probably wrong. It's just my perception of the album and the way that I think it works best told. And then after that, which you can skip to just the review, I'm going to actually discuss the sound of the project, because I think that separating the story and the sound is the smart way to go with this review. Anyways, let's get into the story of the project. Like I said, I'm probably wrong, but I do not believe that the album, the way it's displayed, is in chronological order. I think that the album starts with My Brand New Sleep Schedule, and here's why. So this album, it has 2 main characters in it, which is the main character, which I'm just going to call him John, because John is a very simple name, and then there's Sadie, which is a girl that he's interested in. The reason I believe it starts with My Brand New Sleep Schedule is because it talks about how John is confessing his feelings to Sadie. He says that Sadie went to prom, she might be alone, she might be with somebody else. There is discussion that she does have an ex-boyfriend that does play a part in the story later, so she could be at prom with him. But John in this song says, I'm going to tell her how I feel. I'm going to. You're going to know how I feel about it. And I think that, you know, there's not many songs on this project that don't have him talking about Sadie. Most of these songs are him singing about Sadie. So I believe that this would be the start, because this is where he admits to her how he feels. I think the song that takes place right after this is Sadie. So I think that this song itself is John telling Sadie how he feels. She says that she feels the same back, but it kind of feels like there is a lack of confidence between the two, and the fact that John is questioning if he wants to move with Sadie, because Sadie says that she's moving away, but she says, John, I want you to come with me so we can stare at the moon together where I'm going. John refuses, but he makes it clear that he does want to somehow make it work. So I think that the song that takes place after this is Winstanley. I believe that this song shows that John is accepting that Sadie might love him, but not to the same extent that he loves her, which is exemplified by some of the opening lines on the track where he says, you love me, not the way you did, not the way you did, saying that it's not the same, that she used to love him, maybe in the same track that she was saying in Sadie, probably because she might have moved on while she's been a distance away from John. He says that knowing she won't understand that the way he feels cuts at him. You know, he talks about the blade and how it cuts at him. And I think this extends a mistrust, with Sadie accusing John of cheating despite him not actually doing it. He even says, hey, that girl didn't mean anything to me, in the song. He says that a few times. And it's clear from this point that John has an obsession for Sadie that Sadie does not feel back. He goes to the extent to saying he would die for her just to protect her. He would stand at, I believe it was using a metaphor of being a guard, going against the king to protect Sadie. So, you know, he feels a strong way. The next song is Frank Set Sweet D on Fire. This song, I looked at the SoundCloud lyrics for all of the songs. This song, at the time of writing the script, I don't know if he changed it or not, but there were no lyrics in the description for Frank Set Sweet D on Fire, so I might be reading into it incorrectly. But this is what I believe is the first expression of Sadie and John potentially breaking up. It also covers the idea that John is aware that Sadie doesn't love him anymore and that she has been cheating on him, but instead of admitting it, he would rather just either go to bed or turn the TV on. He says, before facing the truth, like, turn the TV on so we can discuss how you're fucking your ex. So there's a negative feeling that he has towards Sadie, where I don't think that it's a hatred. I think that he still loves her, but either one, she's cheating on him, or two, he's in his head thinking that he can't find happiness with somebody. The next part, I am unsure of if this is a metaphor or an actual part of the story, but I believe that there was a car crash takes place right after Frank Set Sweet D on Fire. John talks about how he witnessed a car crash with his own two eyes. I personally believe that the car crashed into a lake. I don't think it was a head-on collision situation. And the reason why is because of the next song, which I'll get into in a second. And I believe that Sadie was the person in the car crash, also because of the next song. I believe that the car crash caused him to realize that time goes incredibly fast. I mean, he even says time goes by so fast in the song, and that he feels like if he feels a certain way, he needs to express it, which is, I think that after there was a car crash is probably when John, if John is the one singing and writing these songs in the actual story, I think there was a car crash is the point that John would have started writing the project and how he feels, because it's a very sentimental song. I think that's why that order that Sendflowrs did structure this album could work, is because I think that there was a car crash being the opener. I do think this is the point where John first started writing his feelings. I think this may have been the first song that John had written, for example. The next song, Moving to the Moon, This is my personal second favorite from the album. I did have access to this song early, and in the description before it released, it said that this was the first single to the project, which was a fucking lie. It was the second. So, Sendflowrs, you're not slick. I caught you there. Which is why I almost put this song before there was a car crash, but I do think narratively that it does work better as a follow-up. And here's why. This song shows John in a state of depression where he is trying to push himself away from everything, probably because of the death of Sadie. That was my original thought. I thought that the moon was a form of isolation, but what I actually think is that John is drowning himself. And I think that he went to drown himself in the same lake that Sadie drowned in, and there was a car crash. He says that he is under the ice, freezing to death, probably in the same lake that Sadie died in. And I believe that the moon is the afterlife. And the main reason I think this is an afterlife is because it's almost like a perfect afterlife type of situation, because, you know, the last few songs, Sadie and John haven't gotten along very well. But in this song, he's caring for her, they're talking, they're saying that they love each other in it. I think that this is like an apparition in a state of comatose that John is in after dying. I do not think he is fully dead though. It even says at the end of the song, there's nobody on the moon, but he sees her curly hair and he decides to walk towards her. So the last album on both my chronological order and the actual album is the same, Paratrooper. I feel like this song feels like a final conversation between Sadie and John. John telling Sadie that there's still love between them, even after all the things that have gone wrong. But then, if you focus, you can hear, like, hospital noises in the background, you know? And I think that what's going on is John got saved by the lake. I think Sadie's still dead. I think that there's no chance that she survived. And I think that John doesn't fully die. I think that he died for a little bit and moving to the moon, but I think he was resuscitated in Paratrooper. And at the very end, John says that a building collapsed. And I think that what this is saying is that John needs to move on with his own life, try to find the happiness in it without Sadie, and then once he dies, maybe they can find a life together. I would like to make it clear that this is how I perceived the album. I'm probably very incorrect, but I have an over-analytical brain that is usually wrong. But that is the story that I believe is actually told. I think that having it in this order of events makes a lot more sense than the actual order of events. But I do think it makes sense to be listed this way, the way that Sendflowrs organized the album. I think it makes sense from the perspective that John is writing the album and the way he feels about Sadie and going through recounting the events and just like as it hits him, you know? And also the sound of the album, which I'm about to get to, it flows a little weird if you listen to it in the order that I gave. I think the actual sonic sound of things works a lot better in the way that Sendflowrs structured it. So it's a toss-up, but that is the way that I perceive it. I believe the order goes My Brand New Sleep Schedule, Sadie, Winstanley, Frank Said Sweet D on Fire, There Was a Car Crash, Moving to the Moon, then Paratrooper. That is the order of events that I personally believe in, and Harry is probably going to watch this and say I'm stupid and that's incorrect. So I'm waiting for it. The title of this video is definitely clickbait. I'm sorry. I just wanted a snappy cool YouTube title.
Whoa.
Anyways, I'm going to start the actual review of the sound of the album now. I believe that this album is, in terms of sound, very reminiscent of Ecstasy. I don't think every single song is, but you know, especially around the middle of the album, a lot of the production, the vocal style, the actual singing, it reminds me a lot of some songs by Ecstasy. Ecstasy is known for the song I Walk This Earth All By Myself, and I can I can hear a lot of these songs being inspired from that. He's made other songs I like too, but I can't think of any off the top of my head. The songs are incredibly lo-fi. They're very ambient, soft, slow, a lot of guitar. I'm not sure if any of the songs other than Paratrooper don't have guitar in them. I could be wrong. I didn't write it down. I'm listening to it back on it right now, and everything I hear has guitar. The production from start to finish is beautiful and experimental. I'm going to put every producer that worked on the project in the description, so I'll make sure that they get their credit. It's very, very unique compared to the rest of Sendflowrs' catalog. I don't believe he has any songs that sound close to this. I don't think he's ever experimented with this kind of sound and actually released it. And to be clear, I hope he doesn't return to this sound. I want this to be standout and unique. I'm not saying that I don't like the sound of it. The thing is, I really like it, and I want to see him move in a different direction. I would like for, if anything, a sequel be released to this that has the same sound. But unless it's a sequel that continues the narrative between John and Sadie, I don't want him to go back to the sound. I think that this is a perfect standalone project. Adding more, taking away, or discrediting it with his next single sounding the same would... I feel like it takes away a lot of what makes this album special to me. And what's crazy is that there's a lot of distortion on the first few songs. I have to look at the lyrics to understand some of the lines because they're very crushed and distorted. But the more I listen to them, the more easily I can understand them, which is similar to Rainbow Bridge 3 by Cemetery, where the first time I listened to that project, I couldn't understand a word of what Cemetery was saying, and I hate it, and now I can understand everything. Anyways, I'm going to go into the individual tracks now. There Was a Car Crash, the opener. I love the experimentation. The guitar and hums are a perfect way to open up the project. It feels like a very nostalgic opening. Feels happy, very carefree, and then his vocals are melancholic. They sound like a ghost. There's a disparity to them. They're airy, they're distorted, they sound like they're not from this planet. It feels like a sense of dread crossing over into the nostalgia of the past that leaves you happy. And it's such a weird experience having this happy nostalgic feeling crossed with this depressing mixing and vocals and the sad lyrics that are just... It feels almost like taking away the innocence of somebody, which I think works perfectly with the album cover of this being a child. I think it's Sendflowrs as a kid. I'm not 100%. As many times as I have praised Harry, he almost never posts pictures or videos of himself, and I have no idea what he looks like, especially not as a kid. But having the idea that this is a snap out of childhood memory, childhood glamour, I think it works perfectly in the counterbalance of the vocals and the instrumental. Moving to the Moon, this is my second favorite song off the album. Like I said, I had access to it early, and over the time that I was listening to it, it was one of my favorite Sendflowrs songs as a whole. The distortion is toned down a decent bit on the vocals of this song compared to There Was a Car Crash, but there still is a lot. The talking section, accompanied by the moans and hums, is gorgeous. It is atmospheric. Everything about this project brings you to another world. And the song gives a happy feeling to the idea of loneliness. I think the background vocals and the hums bring a lot of life to this song that I think if there weren't the hums and the singing in the background, that this song would be very empty and it would feel very shallow. But the song does cover a lot of ideas of being alone, finding loneliness, watching over the world and just wanting to be alone. And I think that it does it in a way that sounds almost happy. I believe that the lyrics are a lot less dreadful than they sound in the mixing. The next song, Frank Set Sweet D on Fire. I love the lyrics about using a TV and other methods as a distraction from finding the ugly truths in life and relationships and how we always need a distraction from what's going on. But this is by far my least favorite song from the project, even though I appreciate it lyrically. I wish there was more Sendflowrs performance. The production, the actual singing, everything is great, but my issue is that there's just so much talking, and I get that this is more of an interlude type song, so you know, it makes sense that it wouldn't be entirely focused on Sendflowrs singing, but you know, it's just distracting having the talking bit go on for so long. I think it's from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't watched the show, but there are some lyrics in there talking about It's Always Sunny, so that's what I think it's from. And as part of an album experience, this song does work well, but I probably won't return to the song unless I am listening to the album as a whole. This isn't one of the songs that I'm going to throw on. There Was a Car Crash and Moving to the Moon. I have those both in a playlist separate from this entirely that I love listening to. This is one of the very few songs that I'm probably not going to just throw on when I'm chilling. The next song, My Brand New Sleep Schedule, which I believe is the first song in the story, but I'm probably wrong. The instrumental is what catches me. As soon as those drums come in, it's insane. The master is very harsh. The drums are peaking, but it is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I'm not a big fan of it's loud, blah blah blah, but I love the fact that this song is loud. It is great. What's weird is that the instrumental feels very distorted and harsh, but there's almost little to no distortion on Sendflowrs' vocals, which is crazy because compared to the last few songs, he had a lot of distortion on his voice that made him sound muffled. And the song feels very confident and expressive in a way that, like, it feels like it's pushing, you know, he's excited. Like I said in the narrative, he is ready to tell Sadie how he feels. So this song feels like a big leap, like, I'm going to do it. The confidence in the instrumental is great. And I think more than any other song on this entire project, it was inspired by Ecstasy, in my opinion. I think it personally does it better. It has a lot of I Walk This Earth All By Myself vibes in it, from just the instrumental alone, and then also the way that Sendflowrs is singing. After My Brand New Sleep Schedule, we have Winstanley. I think it is a perfect progression from the last song sonically, carrying the same vibe of Ecstasy. I think this instrumental is a lot more like Ecstasy, but the vocals are a lot less. This song is the only song that has the Sendflowrs type of vocal inflection and flow on it. Not on the chorus, but on the verses. This album does not feel like a Sendflowrs project. I hope I made that clear in the overview. This feels like something different. Like, this doesn't... I've never heard Harry do something like this. This song is the only thing where I pick up, that's like Sendflowrs. That's his cadence. And it's only on the verses. This song feels like something that Sendflowrs would have released without an album in mind, just to tell its own little story, just to have it released. I personally think that this should have been the single. The first single. I don't know if this song was made at the time that There Was a Car Crash was made, but I think that There Was a Car Crash should have stayed unreleased until the album came, and I think that this song should have been released before it, just so it could ease people into the idea of the project, because there's a lot of, you know, it is a unique sound, but it has the Sendflowrs vocal inflection on the verses that I think would ease people into the project a bit better if he released this as a single, so people would say, oh, this is something new, but we hear a lot of what we already like about Harry into it. This is the longest song on the project, and it has 2 full verses, and I am so glad it does. It does not overstay its welcome at all. It works perfectly fine, especially on this instrumental that's so laid back, and it just lets Sendflowrs take the spotlight with his vocals. This song and the last song, he pushes his voice so much more than he does on any of the other songs, and this is my favorite song on the project. This song and Moving to the Moon are probably top 5 all-time Sendflowrs songs. I really have no idea what the actual top 5 would be or what beats it out. I don't think this is my favorite Sendflowrs song, but it's up there. It's really good. And then after that we have Sadie, and this song feels like it goes back into form with like the first 3 tracks, where it's very mellow in the same way that There Was a Car Crash and Moving to the Moon were, but there is not a lot of distortion on the vocals like there is in those first 2 tracks, but it's still incredibly subdued and lost in the guitar. The song feels like floating underwater with nobody except the one person you love, and I think slow dancing to this song would probably be the most romantic thing you could ever experience. And I think that it does fit with the idea that Sadie drowned and John tried to drown himself, because it does feel like you're underwater and you're talking to the person you love. It feels like the conversation that they had. I feel like this could be the conversation they had on Moving to the Moon if it was changed around even more. I don't know. I know that contradicts my own chronological order of the album, but you know, it gives the same idea of those 2 drowning and him drowning himself to be with her. So I think that I like the way that the mixing works into the actual story of the project. The last song, Paratrooper, has such a grand, majestic piano. This piano is coming full force. It's one of the only songs that doesn't have guitar. It might be the only song. But it's contrasted with having very quiet, airy vocals. The piano reminds me of like a wedding or a ballroom, and the vocals sound like a ghost or a funeral or something. And in the background, there's some hospital sounds that help build the atmosphere of the song, and it is amazing. I genuinely believe that the counterbalance of having the abrasive piano melody with the thin vocals creates a feeling of needing to have confidence but not fully believing in yourself, and I think it creates such a wonderful image in my head. This is a perfect song to end on. I think that this works as a great outro, both sonically and story-wise. I personally wouldn't return to this song unless I was listening to the album, but it is a great song. I would rather listen to this than Frank Set Sweet D on Fire. So my final thoughts: this album is nearly perfect, especially the story. I love the idea of 2 people who constantly try to make it work together, but it is so obvious that it is very one-sided. It reminds me of Forrest Gump in the sense that Forrest Gump is absolutely in love with Ginny, but it's obvious that Ginny isn't as serious about being committed to Forrest until the end, which I think, you know, this kind of works as like a Forrest Gump type deal, where John in the story is very in love with Sadie, but Sadie is very clearly holding back, cheating on him, and then when she's about to die, or even after she dies, just like Ginny, that's when she's willing to give John the full chance. Like I said, the only song I don't care for is Frank Set Sweet D on Fire. It has less to do with Sendflowrs' involvement and more of the lack of it. I think that The Devil's Cave was the first real look at Sendflowrs' storytelling over the course of a full project and not just a song. I guess the Pinewood Murders, but they feel more like less of a story and more of a concept done like amongst 3 songs. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't feel like a flowing story. It feels more like 3 different stories segmented. I think that this album is an 8.5 out of 10. It is so close to a 9. I just think Tragedy's better, which is the only reason that I not giving it a 9. It is so close. It could grow on me. But for now, 8.5 out of 10. This is wonderful. This is my favorite album from Sendflowrs. Album, definitely. It's not my favorite project as a whole. I think Sierra 117 is my favorite EP by Sendflowrs. I think all of the songs on that are just amazing to just throw on and vibe out to. But this album's great, and I think it's definitely worth listening to. I had a great time listening to it, trying to break it down, even though I'm probably wrong in my assumptions. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, the breakdown. This was a very unique structure of review. I'm probably not going to do it like this for a while, but in the next few days I am releasing a video covering the most inconsistent era of Sewer Person, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And the video after that is going to be a review of a Sewer Person album. Which one I haven't decided yet, but we'll find out. So thanks for watching. See ya.